Hello, 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 everybody. How is it going? Just a second here. I'll get this stream going here in just a moment. What's up? What's up? All right, guys, welcome to Parish News Network. As always, my name is Dalton, and we are here to talk today about some more Pope Ranch stuff. We're here to talk about um, my little deal that I had posted yesterday, my live. Unfortunately, right when I was talking about what we're fixed to talk about today, for some reason it cut off. And please, 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 guys, I know I'm gaining a lot of support from people in different, excuse me, I just ate. A lot of people support in different various places and stuff, and I would really appreciate it if you guys hit that like button. Make sure you turn on the notification bell, subscribe, and make sure you share it with everybody else. Everybody else is included in the conversation. I've got people hitting me up in all different directions all the time, asking me questions, and this is a really good place to find out a lot of the information you guys are asking me. So if you think I can help somebody, you have any questions, as always, you can hit me up at parishnewsnetwork@gmail.com. Again, that is parishnewsnetwork@gmail. Today we're going to start out the live here with a little old opinion piece from TBT, the Bradenton Times. And this is wrote by Mitch Malley, and it says, Phelps fumbles at the goal line, subtitled, Rookie Commissioner's Mistake Cost Constituents what should have been a layup victory. If you guys have not seen this article, I got sent it by somebody else that's been really passionate about this Pope Ranch deal. And it's got honestly a lot of things in there that was exactly what I was saying, and that's what a lot of other people was saying. And I'm going to read it here. I'm actually going to read quite a good bit of it because it honestly goes into detail of everything that I want to say perfectly. Um, and I think that, if you don't read it, you can hear it here. Just listen to it. That's fine. So without further ado, here is the article. In 15 years of covering the Manatee County Commission, I don't know that I have ever witnessed anything as bizarre as District 1 Commissioner Carol Felt's performance Tuesday when the board was to vote on an application to rezone nearly 220 acres of parish farmland from agricultural to planned residential development. Pope Ranch is in Phelps District and surrounded by neighborhoods that endured some of the worst flooding in the county during last year's hurricane season. Developer Pat Neal's particularly aggressive ask is not only located in an inauspicious part of the county, but the timing of his request seemed beyond tone deaf. What we've been saying this whole time. Commissioners heard more than an hour of public comment from neighboring residents who opposed the application, many of whom who had suffered significant losses from Hurricanes Helene and or Milton, which is wrong. It was really Debbie, but okay, he doesn't know. Um, Several, including engineer Mark Vandery, noted the lack of meaningful work that the county had done in implementing a stormwater management plan or assessing the current state of stormwater drainage systems in the area. Commissioner Jaden Beard had and a litany of thoughtful, well articulated questions related to the engineering aspirations of the project that did a good job of highlighting the complexity of what was being entertained. Several people commented that he had to have gotten help, to which I responded, good. Every commissioner on the board who is not an engineer, which is to say all of them, should come as well prepared as Bearden did Tuesday or Thursday, especially when the stakes are so high. Unfortunately, it seemed evident that the votes would not be there. Fortunately, it seemed evident that the votes would not be there and the application was destined to be denied a 4-3 or a 5-2 vote. However, Commissioner Amanda Ballard had to leave the marathon meeting before it ended. Neal's attorney, Ed Vogler, asked the board to grant a continuance so that the vote could be conducted before a full board, a routinely extended courtesy. Sensing that the board had an opportunity to deny a deeply unpopular application, Commission Chair Cruz recessed the meeting. During the short break, Ballard was successfully contacted to rejoin the meeting via Zoom with a hard out of 6:30 p.m. Less than several minutes from when the meeting reconvened, Cruz was obviously shocked to see that Phelps had replaced herself on the board, um, and she had already made her opinions for opposing the project ad nauseum. Had placed herself back on the board for additional deliberation. Cruz had just said that they had a full board for the next 6 minutes and 30 seconds, telling Phelps that she was really gambling on this one by insisting on speaking again. Once she had the floor, the first term commissioner took her sweet time, so much that it almost seemed like she was trying to run out the clock. She spoke very slowly, added absolutely nothing of value, cried, and otherwise pontificated, boliviated, and babbled her own words through a barely coherent screed of drivel. Then, when Commissioner Cruz tried to scramble to get a vote, Phelps said she would be excusing herself to go to the bathroom. Commissioner Ballard, presumably because she had child care responsibilities, but just as likely to spare herself from another moment of Phelps' bathering, dropped off the call at some point during the strange affair. As a result, the next vote was on the applicant's request to be heard before a full board was approved. Instead of delivering a significant victory to her constituents, Phelps was solely responsible for keeping an application destined to fail alive. The scene was so bizarre that someone actually asked me if I thought the development forces might have somehow compromised the commissioner. For the record, I don't, but if you cannot tell the difference between how she acted at the meeting and how she would have expected someone deliberately trying to tank a victory, I ask you, does it really matter? It goes on to say that My guess is that the commissioner somehow thought she was entitled to have her moment ahead of the vote and was just grandstanding in front of the constituents from her district who were watching either in the chambers or online. If so, that's not much better. During her rant, Phelps preached that those who came to give public comment weren't getting paid to be there. Well, she was getting paid to be there quite generously, in fact, and she owed it to those who not for those who were not to focus on delivering the result they so desperately desired. All she had to do is stop talking and take the win. She didn't, and Neil's project lives to fight another day. Nice work, Commissioner. Now, again, this is a article by Mitch Malley of the Bradenton Times, and I just read that in its entirety. I agree with the guy. I hate to say it, and like I said yesterday, I don't have a personal relationship with Phelps. Like, I know of her, I've talked to her. That's the extent of our relationship. I'm not like friendly one on one with her or anything like that. And I think she's a good person and she's a good commissioner when she can articulate a very precise, direct response. This time, it was exactly like the article said and exactly like she said herself. I will babble and dribble and all this other stuff and pontificate, and she fucked herself over is really what she did. I mean, I hate to say it like that, but there's just no other way to say it. She screwed her own self out of a win because she could not stop herself from trying to say all of this stuff that, okay, look, I was one of the ones there that sat there all day and was not getting paid, but I would have rather seen the vote go through and the vote be a denial than to be a continued, no time certain, and this project lived to come back again, and possibly more work's been done to Gamble Creek, and more, there's more of a chance that this thing's going to pass. She lost an opportunity to get this thing just dead done first commission meeting, because like Cruz has said, the longer that this thing goes in the process, the more of a case that they have. Hey man, process, and you guys hadn't ejected there, and and I don't think we really need. I know that this guy says that he doesn't think there was outside interference to Ballard, but I mean, come on, guys. I again, I understand there are other responsibilities outside of being a commissioner, but you're paid $100,000 a year to be there for your constituents and to do the job of a commissioner. Okay, it sucks that the meetings are 6 and 8 hours sometimes, but that's your job. That's what you got elected to do. If you're not going to do that, you either need to give up your seat to somebody else, not run again, like pass the baton, bro, because at this point, you you and Phelps solely cost us the W. That's 100% the way to look at it. Okay? I understand you had something to go do with your kids that was made well known. I'm glad that you want to be a good parent and all that stuff. I am not dogging on you for that at all. I don't want that to come off that way as attacking you or anything, because that is not what I'm trying to do. But the fact of the matter is that your job is to be in that seat, listening to these applicants and making decisions based off of good faith for the county. I understand that that's not going to be solely what I want or what Chris wants or what Neil wants or this or that. You guys have to make some very difficult decisions to make a future for this county. But let's be honest here, okay? This is the real nitty gritty of the conversation. We have plenty of development already going in this county. If we, for example, put a moratorium in today, it would not hurt the development industry not one bit. Like I said at the commission meeting on Thursday, If you look at the Creekside development, it's posted on their website. You are more than welcome to look it up and fact check me. Out of the 95 listed slots that is on the county application, 3 has been sold in red on their website. There's only been three slots out of the total 95 slots they have to sell inside of Creekside. And if I am not wrong, there is only a handful of houses built in that community. Because what a lot of these developers are doing is they are not building these houses until they are sold. The housing market for like the last 2 years, people have been saying it is another '08 bubble. The housing market is going to bubble. It's going to build and build and build, and these house prices are going to go so far up and so far crazy that they're eventually going to pop. And that is 100% what we're starting to see. We're starting to see the housing prices come back down. You're not fetching as much for your properties anymore. We're starting to see a stagnation of the market, and we're also starting to see a lot of inventory, new inventory, not just, resales, pre-manufactured houses and stuff sitting, new stock, stuff that Neil, Baroof, all the rest of these guys have already built, and it's just sitting there. Okay? The other thing is that we have so much work that the county cannot do their job to make it out to all of these job sites and to essentially fact check what these developers are doing. Now, you heard at the meeting on Thursday, it was one of staff that said, there's this process, or I believe it might have even been Vogler. I think it was Vogler that said it, really, but there was somebody that said that, there's this process that happens where, the development has to go through a series of checks, and that Swift Mud does this and that and the other, and so does the county, and blah 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 blah. Well, I got news for you. I have talked to Swift Mud. I've talked to the county inspectors that they were referring to, and basically Swift Mud's like, yeah, we don't have any teeth here, because if we recommend anything to legal, it's either going to get fixed before legal can do anything about it, and even then it's such a small fine they're going to pay it and go on their day, or they're just not going to prosecute on it. He's like, I've recommended so many cases that are prosecutable, and they just don't do anything with them because we have no teeth. And Manatee County doesn't have balls for shit. I'm sorry. That's the only way to say it. And they don't have teeth for anything. Anything. They don't have a fine mechanism. They don't have a way to hold these developers accountable. And that's just like we've seen with the dust situation. They'll sit there and they'll red tag them for dust. They don't fix it. They don't care. They'd rather just pay the DEP and Swift Mud fines and just bye-bye. We'll just keep working. So, it just goes to show you that more than one person thinks that really, it was a culmination for Pope Ranch of why it ended up getting this continuance. Ed Vogler, the dude is I'm gonna say it like, and this is my opinion. I want to say that up front. I am not slandering this dude. This is my opinion of this dude. This is the interpretation that I think of this dude, and I am entitled to this opinion. You understand what I'm saying? This is not anything that I can be sued over, because this is my First Amendment right. But I think the dude's a slimy fucking snake, and he is an opportunist. And when he sees that something is not going his way and there is a loophole or an out, that dude's going to take it. That is point blank, period fact. These developers do not care about Manatee County residents coming up to these commission meetings and whining and complaining about, man, my house flooded and I lost all my stuff and did it. Pat Neal was down in Sarasota with residents doing the same, and him and Vogler were sitting there laughing and talking. The news stations have it on film. They do not care at all about the constituents of Manatee or Sarasota County. But Ed Vogler is the first one to go up there and say, and Pat Neal has a quality record of providing Manatee and Sarasota County residents with quality homes and da 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 da, and none of our infrastructure has failed. Well, I got news for you, Mr. Vogler. You didn't come up to me and find me at the end of the meeting wanting to see this information, but I'm going to put it out there because I think the people should know. You're you're lying to the commission. You're lying to the board. You're lying to the constituents of Manatee County by saying, "Oh, none of our stormwater infrastructure has ever failed." Yes, it has. I 100% know it has because I have the proof. Just a second. This is the back pond of Salt Meadow, or not Salt Meadows. Oh, see here? This right there, and that right there is the Manatee. Where that circle is where it blew out. See? Gilly Creek. Hold on. See it? It says Gilly Creek. All right. Or Gamble Creek. Sorry. And that's where it blew out. You see it. It's on satellite. This is a this is a screen grab off of Google Maps. Dog, at like the 28th of October, or of not even October, is the 28th of like August. You can go on there in the history view and see this, where that pond blew out. And that's an engineered pond. They dug that pond. That pond was not there. That was on the as-built. That was engineered to a particular standard. Here, Mr. Vogler. That right there. Hold on. Hold on. Let me turn off the background for a second. Look at it. Look at it right there. You can see where the pond blew out. That's in black and white. That's in fact right there. That's photographic evidence. And that's what it looks like today. After they fixed it. Here's a video of the water rushing over. It's a video. You can't fake that. Here's another picture with the sidewalk gone. And you guys are more than welcome to go into Canoe Creek when the gates are open and to see the pond that I just showed you. Go on Google Maps and verify the Google Maps images that I just showed you. Okay? And I know that there's no way that that's the only community that supposedly stormwater infrastructure has never failed in. There's no way. Something else that my dogs are playing, and I'm going to turn the background back on here in just a second. Something else that I want to talk to everybody about is a lot of people, down there in the Lakewood Ranchway, so McCann's district, was talking about this SMR study that Rex Jensen, I believe that was who it was, put out with SMR, talking about, well, this tee box was modified on this golf course and this year, and there's sedimentation buildup under this bridge, and and that's why this part of the thing flooded. And listen, through my sources, that was a whole sham to misdirect people in the wrong direction. Okay? According to who I've been talking to, that was developer backed 100%, not just by SMR, but by other people that were trying to point out any outside cause for Lakewood Ranch's Braden Rivers problem. Now, that sedimentation could have come from anywhere. Number one. Number two, we've had two other major hurricane events since that tee box was supposedly modified, and they did not flood. Nobody even said they came close to flooding over there. Something or some culmination had to have changed in order for them to flood over there. Okay? The other thing that I'd like to get into, because this was just after Pope Ranch, and I have them pulled up here. Give me just a second. Actually, let me go in my my files because I have it saved. Let's see here. Where is it at? Because I knew it's in my iCloud drive. And it's syncing. Hold on. I'll have to go back and pull it up from the agenda. Meetings and agendas. Past BOCC agendas. Nope. Agenda. For item number 11. Actually, it was item number 13.
We're done with that item. Moving on to item number 13.
Item number 13 is your transmittal hearing.
I don't know. It's not even it. Where the heck did it go off the freaking thing? Okay. That was the May 8th meeting. Poop Ranch should be number 10. Yeah, Poop Ranch. Okay, here it is. I don't know why I didn't populate this before. Combined agency comments. Okay, so we're going to talk about this Florida Commerce letter where the Florida Commerce circulated their comprehensive text amendment around to FDOT, environmental protection, Swift Mud. They even got a comment from another outside agency. So let's see here. Start at the top. So, according to them, this is the part that matters of what they said. Florida Commerce has reviewed the Manatee County proposed comp plan amendment received on April 7th, 2025, pursuant to the expedited state review process in section, and then it gives a section, Florida statutes. Florida Commerce has identified a comment regarding conflicts with the application of Chapter 2023 349, Section 15, Laws of Florida, proposed comprehensive plan amendment. These conflicts render the proposed comp plan amendment null and void. Chapter 2023 349 provides, and then it goes on to say that, see here, counties may not propose to adopt any moratorium on construction, reconstruction, redevelopment of any property damaged by Hurricane Ian, propose or adopt more restrictive or burdensome amendments to its comp plan, land development regulations, or propose to adopt more restrictive or burdensome procedures concerning review, approval, or issuance of a site plan, development permit, development order, or the extent of those terms are denied by Florida Statute 163.3164 before October 1st, 2026. And it says any such moratorium or restrictive or burdensome comp plan amendment, land development regulation, or procedure shall be null and void ab initio. This subsection applies retroactively to September 28th, 2022. Initially, they said that it was only going to go, I believe, till 2022, and then they said that wasn't long enough, so they moved it up to 2026. Or I think it was like 2024, and they moved it to 2026. Cruz says it in the 2000 in the Thursday meeting. He actually says, it went to this date, and then they came back and they revised it to 2026. It's October 1st of 2026. Nobody can make a comp plan amendment that's more restrictive or burdensome to the developers because they were trying to help people out that were, damaged by the hurricane, according to the Florida Commerce. And they go on to say Manatee County's proposed amendment revises the county's wetland protection provisions to establish requirements that are more restrictive and are burdensome, and other requirements that are potentially more restrictive or burdensome than the county's currently adopted comp plan. Now, everybody was dogging on Bearden because he was part of the reason why they gutted the comp plan from enhanced wetland protections. And I mean, Bearden was like a first-term commissioner, like first-year commissioner, when that was a thing, when he did that. I mean, dude didn't know the ramifications of his actions at the time, and dudes came out and said, look, I messed up. I made a mistake. So, try and lay off of him a little bit. I mean, dude's been pretty solid on his votes for trying to make the right changes in this county. We need to focus more on less development, more infrastructure, more funding. What's up? No? Is there gonna bounce all over the bed? Just give me like another 15 minutes, man. Peace, homie. All right. More restrictions on these developers so that way we can start to correct this problem. It is 100% like what Felt said. We need to start cutting the damn tap off and stop the flow of all of these developers coming in and making things worse and worsening the conditions and changing the water table and changing the topography of the land and making all these claims of, oh, we're going to cut our flow by 50% because this is what the program tells us we're going to do. Sorry, that's not how this stuff works. The other thing is they put two letters in here from Swiftmud. Two separate letters. One is dated May 2nd of 2025, and it says that it is from a James J. Golden, senior planner with the Swift Mud, and it says staff of the Southwest Florida Water Management District has reviewed the Wetland Protection Revision Comp Plan Amendment substituted by Manatee County, and the district has no substantive comments regarding the amendment. However, the district's Office of General Counsel's observation is the amendment seeks to reinstate requirements for wetland buffers, impact avoidance, and mitigation that exceed the standards, and essentially quotes that same chapter 15 of 2023 349 and says that they cannot change it until October 1st of 2026 and that they appreciate the opportunity to participate in the comp plan amendment. So that's the first one. There's also usually like a little cover letter that they send with that, and all this stuff is included in the agenda. The DEP says that the Office of Intergovernmental Program of the Florida Department of Environmental Protection has reviewed the above, and then they cite the same thing, but they're talking about Section 14 of 2023 349. So we have that's the other thing. Okay, this is dated May 5th. And we have at the top, according to the Department of Commerce, that it is Chapter 2023 349, Section 15, and then they cite Section 14, like just down, so there's typos, and then they cite this further on, Section 15, Section 14, Section, like there's just a bunch of typos in these letters. I have noticed that. And the Department of Environmental Protection, see here, Department of Transportation, this one, the Department of Environmental Protection says that it is seeking guidance from the Department of Commerce. Okay, we've got a different letter from, no, actually it's the same letter submitted twice. And then there's also a cover letter from someone at the Department of Transportation and a different person from the Department of Transportation. One saying that Element 3, Conservation, and Element 4, Coastal Management of the proposed comp plan amendment is more restrictive and burdensome and blah, 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 blah. Requirements for wetland mitigation and buffers between 30 and 50. The environmental protection typically requires 15 and 25. Larger buffers require additional mitigation, which is what we need. These may impact projects for transportation network, including transportation resources and facilities of state importance that might be required to meet buffer mitigation requirements. Remedy. Requirements specific to wetland permitting, mitigation, and buffers should align with existing state and federal blah, 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 blah. And it says that she is the Intermodal Systems Development Administrator for the Florida Department of Transportation, District 1. But then you have somebody out of the Bartow office as well. It says FDOT has reviewed the proposed amendment for the Manatee County pursuant to section, and it states the statute, the CPA is not anticipated to have any significant adverse impacts to the transportation resources or facilities of state importance. So they just said, well, this may have significant impacts for the state to do their job, and then you have somebody else from the same entity contradicting that by saying that it's not going to have any adverse impacts to transportation resources or facilities of state importance. Doesn't really make sense. And let me get back up here to this other one, because this is also from that same lady. the first one that I was talking about, and it says after further review and consideration, and it gives the element 3 and the element 4 where they're talking about larger buffers require additional mitigation and all that. So they've essentially added the same letters in here like 3 or 4 times in certain scenarios. But my question is if the Florida Commerce is going to parse a response from these various organizations, and they're all going to try and make a recommendation on something, why isn't there a guided response to special a special extraordinary circumstance situation? Because what we are dealing with here is unprecedented, something that this county has not seen in over 20 years. And mind you, I've done more research into the 2003 incident, and for the time period, the amount of rain that we got is equal to the amount of rain that we've gotten now, even though the numbers are different. And we've also had 20 years of development that has significantly impacted both the topography, the water table, and lack of maintenance from 2003 to 2024. We're fighting ourselves in this whole entire situation, just trying to get ahead, like Cruz and Bearden and all the rest of these guys have said, because we don't have the money and other boards haven't taken the time to make this their issue. They're just, all the next board will take care of it. That's somebody else's problem, whatever the case is. And we get no accurate representation from the state because they not only have lobbyists up there from the county, but they also have lobbyists up there from the developers. If you go back and you watch that meeting from Thursday, I want you to pay attention to two specific people from that meeting. There's a lady in a green dress that is sitting just to if you're sitting there looking at it, it would be to the right from your point of view. She would be sitting to the left of the podium. That lady is Niels Bird Dog. She goes up to Tallahassee all the time and lobbies to different senators, to different Congress people, to different state representatives, and all sorts of stuff like that, trying to get more initiatives passed that benefit developers. Now, the other person I want you to pay attention to is that dude we were talking about earlier, Mr. Vogler. Mr. Vogler is more than vocal on the record talking about his experience for being with the Neal family for so long. And it's what is it, 45 years of excellence or whatever he says, talking about, they've been building houses down here for a long time and they know what they're doing. Well, somebody put it a really good way earlier on Facebook. Yeah, they build houses for the rains in Arizona that come like every 3 years. They don't build houses for Florida hurricanes. And that's a fact. And like I've said at these commission meetings about a half a dozen times, they 100% do not at all know what they're talking about when they plug a bunch of information into these computer programs and the computer program says it's going to work. That's exactly what that computer program is doing. It is programmed to run to a standard that somebody, somewhere, some way has set into that program in order to get a result that they would like, or a guaranteed result. The county has no teeth to go back and fact check this stuff, and you even hear them say it when they talk about this stuff at the board meetings. Well, it's assumed responsibility and liability on that engineer's license. If his stuff is wrong, he is the one certifying that it is correct. So that way, it's the responsibility is not on the county. Well, how many times have you seen any of these engineers had an investigation into them? Because all these developers all have a very limited amount of companies to go through, and so does the county, in order to get engineering done. I mean, you see Z&S Engineering does developers, counties, state government, federal government work. They're all intermingled in there. It's not like, this is the person you go to for the county. This is the person you go to if you're a developer. This is the person you go to if you're a regular person. They're all intermingled in there. So, it's not. How many people do you see getting investigated and losing their license over something like that? It never happens. It never happens. That is like the pipe dream of pipe dreams for the board, and for not just Vogler, but all these freaking development companies that come in there and say, well, it's the engineer putting his license on the line if the engineering's wrong. They don't care, because they're not going to get caught. We're talking about a multi-million-dollar business that makes these people billions of dollars over their lifetime, versus a local county government that may make $1 billion surplus in a year. Okay, the county doesn't have enough funds to spread around. That's why they're trying to do this whole impact fee thing, and surpass the Florida requirements with the circumstances, the extraordinary circumstances argument, so that way they can collect 100% impact fees. Because it's been the objective of the county and the commission to not adequately charge for things for so long that you can't get anything done. It's becoming more and more of a problem. We have roads that need to be widened. We have roads that need to be resurfaced. We have pipes in the ground from the 60s that need to be replaced, that we have to go and take out funding and loans from the federal government to make happen. I mean, look at the Fort Hammer Bridge, for example. They had to take out a massive loan just to get that project done. And when they put the original 2-lane bridge in, they knew it was going to be insufficient when they put it in. Neil's revenue is $1 billion a year. I could believe it. I looked up the average home price of a Neil community home the other day. You want to know how much it is? $600 and something thousand. I think it's like $645,000 is the average price of a Neil community homes. Now, it's funny that on Thursday, Mr. Cruz was talking about, well, I like the Simply Dwell product, and it's affordable housing, and da, 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 da. Well, guess what? This has only recently became a thing. He's only come out with Simply Dwell homes in like the last 3 years. Okay, most of his houses focus in the like mid fours to $1 million houses is what this dude builds. And this let's not even talk about the fact that this dude is not even from here. This dude is like from Ohio. Okay? This dude is building houses in the mountains where the water flows different. This dude was not building houses in Florida when he first started his little empire. This dude was not from here, okay? that's like, for example, and I'm just using this as an example. Evan is a smart dude. Evan, and when I say Evan, I'm talking about Evan Pilichowski. That dude's from Michigan. Okay, you go anywhere else north of the Mason-Dixon line, hell, anywhere where there is mountains and hills and valleys, the topography and the hydrology of that area is so far removed from Florida, it's not even funny. Something else that people should pay attention to that backs up what I'm saying, for example, is that did you know that north, true north, in magnetic north, depending on where you are at on the earth, is different? When you are taught land nav, you are taught how to figure out true north from magnetic north, and there's a specific degree variance depending on your local area that you have to plug in for your compass to be actually going north, because the amount of iron and copper and all the ferrous metal magnetic metals in the earth has been moved around so much that it's actually moved magnetic north from true north, because of all the building and excavation and everything else that we've done over the years, over the centuries, has changed magnetic north from new north, from actual, due north. So these engineers and things from the 50s, the 20s, like the 1920s and stuff, the 1800s, the people that didn't have all these fancy programs, didn't have all these, complicated things that we have today, all this LiDAR and all this other garbage and GPS and all that. The people that actually had to do the work with their noodle up here built some of the marvels of the world. You're talking about the Panama Canal. You're talking about the Hoover Dam. You're talking about Mount Rushmore. Look at all the different things that we have in the United States today that was built without any of this stuff. Just pure, will and determination to figure out a way to do it with what they had and the way that they had to do it. Okay? I do not care what anybody says about what these stupid programs that they are relying on to develop these communities says. Mother Nature, 100%, every single bit of the time, is going to take over. It will prove you wrong. It has proved us wrong time and time again. Look at Hurricane Katrina for Louisiana. Tony has talked about it multiple times. The dude was there. The dude was rescuing people off their roofs. Perfect storm, perfect culmination of people not doing maintenance on the pumps. The levees couldn't take it. They busted. Engineering marvel, the levee system in Louisiana. But all because somebody didn't maintenance 6 pumps. We had the travesty that we had. You see where I'm going with this here? You know, the thing is, man, to recap everything that we just talked about, you tell people to skip to this part in the video, 53, 59, or 54, whatever, is these developers are going to lie, they're going to cheat, they're going to steal, they're going to make a way for them to get what they want happen. They will say what they got to say, they will tap the dance that they got to tap in front of that board to make money. They do not care. They do not have a vested interest in the people of this county. That's number 1. Number 2, this goes to all the commissioners. I respect every single commissioner that sits on that board. They are there for a purpose. They are there to be the voice of the constituents for the district that they serve. The only exception to that is Cruz and Bearden. They are at-large commissioners. They serve all of us. You are more than welcome to reach out to them, no matter your district, and they should respond to you. If they do not respond to you, there's a problem. That being said, especially the new commissioners, I'm going to point out some things. Number one, certain commissioners just need to shut the fuck up and put a motion in play when you're on a time clock and get the job done. The other thing that I'm going to point out, if you pay attention, Ballard votes like Ron. Ron and Ballard are always in line on their votes. And so is Tal. Tal is following whatever Ron votes on, 9 times out of 10. There's been very few times that I've seen Ballard oppose Ron or Tal oppose Ron. Okay? I don't personally know what's going on there, but they are all usually on the same page and voting the same way. Cruz normally is doing the same exact thing. He has surprised me lately by doing what he did on Thursday. I mean, he was pretty much set to go 3-0 on shooting down developments, which usually is like you might get one a meeting. Okay, we read the article, and if you have not heard at the beginning of this little live here, I would highly look it up. It is the Bradenton Times article, Phelps Fumbles at the Goal Line. Is the article name. It is an opinion piece. I agree with it, other than I'm gonna caveat what I said earlier with this. Phelps doing what she did, I think, had an effect on it. But at the same time, Ballard really didn't start having like connection issues until Cruz made it abundantly clear that he was going to vote no on that particular development. It was very convenient that she dropped off when she did. She, bar none, whatever it is she had going on, she had an obligation to the constituents that came up there to that meeting and sat there for hours and was not getting paid in order to be available for that vote. That was literally the last thing that she physically had to be there, had to be on a call to make a break one way or the other. She just had to be there to vote. That was it. A full board. Everything else was voted to continuance. It didn't necessarily have to have a full board. It could have been a six person board. There was still a majority there that it wasn't going to be a tie unless it was like a 3-3. But I've rarely ever seen that. Um. And with that being said, it was just very convenient that after Cruz said basically, I'm not, I love the product, but I'm not going to vote for this, that she just conveniently has connection issues. It looks fishy. And we all know that this county and this particular board of county commissioners, no matter who's sitting on it, has had problems in the past with transparency to the public and with corruption and with other issues. This is a huge problem for this county. This county is notoriously non-transparent when it comes to people asking questions. And that is where I'm going to end it. That's all I have to say about this subject. When it comes back around, I want to make sure that I post on here and I let everybody know. Share it. Get the word out. all that good stuff. I honestly appreciate every single person that has come up to me and that has said, hey, I watch your videos, even if they don't watch them while I do them, whatever, it doesn't matter. There's more people than people think watch these videos than I think a lot of people realize. And they love what I'm doing, and it makes me want to keep going. There's plenty of days that I said, you know what? It's a lost battle. Just not going to do it anymore. There's no point. And that is exactly what these developers want. And I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to let these people down, because I can tell you 100%, nobody else is fighting for us but us. The few that's willing to go to these meetings and take off work. And if you guys don't want to support that, and you guys don't want to help your fellow, Manatee County resident out, I don't know what to tell you. But I definitely wouldn't expect somebody to help you out when it comes down to it, unless they're just a really good person, because I'll help anybody out. With that being said, though, I'm going to quit rambling. I've already been on here an hour, but I would highly encourage, if you missed the first half of this, to go back and listen to it, or go and read the article. That's pretty much what the first good 10-15 minutes of this was anyway. It was talking about the article. It is a good read. I do agree with a lot of what Mitch says, and other than that, I appreciate you guys tuning in to Parish News Network. We give you the realest, the rawest, and the uncensored content that big name brand people don't want to put out there. This is my honest opinion about everything that I see going on. Till next time, appreciate it, guys. See you later.